Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here, and we're going to be talking about Min-JAE, the player that Spurs definitely missed out on. He was available. He did kind of have one season over at Fenerbahce, but I think it went pretty well. He sort of used it as a launch pad after he made his move from Beijing Guan. From there, now he's kind of headed over to Napoli by the looks of it for around 20 million euros. So I kind of just thought this video would be maybe a sad reminder to Spurs fans on what player we sort of missed out on, and then for, the Napoli fans, this is the player that you're going to be bringing in. But let's take a deep dive into what Min-JAE is going to be bringing to the Serie A. In his most recent campaign in the Super League, the Turkish league, played over 2,000 minutes, actually 2,600 minutes, in fact, had a goal there. But in the Europa League and the Conference League is where he actually got a bit of his maybe more competitive action, you could say, or at least higher quality kind of competition. And he actually had maybe a bit over 600 minutes in total, kind of European competition, where he played 6 matches in the Europa League and then 2 matches in the Conference League, but only 55 minutes played in the Conference League. Born in Tongyeong, South Korea, which I believe is a coastal city in South Korea. He's actually going to be turning 26 this November. He is a bit of a late bloomer, but I think he also maybe just didn't have the opportunity to be able to be discovered as young as maybe other players probably would. Height is he's pretty tall, and I think honestly 6'3" might be an underestimate because I think he looks taller than that. 1.9 meters. Center back. He is also right-footed, and his youth career was actually a technical high school, Suwon Technical High School, where I believe Park Ji Sung actually came from. So it's actually produced a few different footballers that have gone pretty far with their careers. And the transfer value is around 20 million euros, and it's a 5-year deal. And then supposedly there is going to be a release clause kind of involved after I think 2024. So something maybe for Spurs fans still to be hopeful about. If they still want Min-JAE to come through. Just going to kind of go through his sort of Europa League stats. Again, it's not, a huge sample size. I think, yeah, as we saw, we're working with about 540 minutes of football. But in that Europa League, if you want to look at just his, defensive stats, you can see like his aerials, one are really maybe not too great, but I'm not really too sure how much that has to do with whether he didn't have to deal with as many crosses as per usual, or if he really isn't as aerial dominant as maybe we thought. I actually think he is, just by the size of him and the look of him. I actually think he looks like he would be pretty good in the air. But I think what's really fascinating about Min-JAE is sort of his anticipation and how well he reads the game, because his interception numbers, at least when it comes to FB ref, and when comparing him to Europe's top 5 leagues and comparing him to all center backs in Europe's top 5 leagues, he's in the 93rd percentile. And, I understand, this is a really small sample size to be looking at, but when he's in the top 7% of center backs when it comes to interceptions, which is a great, kind of indicator of how to read the game and, whether they can actually anticipate something to happen before, it's too late. And, or even just to kind of, without even needing to make a tackle, just, read the pass and, win it from there and, kind of get the team going perhaps on a counter attack. And he's getting near 3, interceptions a game when he was playing actually in the Europa League, which is quite impressive. And tackles and interceptions combined, he had 4.3. And once you kind of get close to 5, that usually means you're dealing with a lot of actions. But when you do get over 5, that is quite elite. And, he was hovering quite close to it. And it's probably just because he wasn't dealing with as much action and maybe didn't get the opportunity to get near maybe 5 tackles and interceptions. And he's also not dribble pass very much. And the fact that he isn't dribble pass very much shows that, he's definitely, not getting, just blown past like we see with Sanchez, in lots of cases. So I feel like Min-JAE, I think we know, could have been easily an improvement on Sanchez. And I could even make the argument perhaps could be an improvement on Dyer, but we're going to actually, compare his stats, speaking of which, to Eric Dyer. And we are sort of, again, only, really using a very small sample size of Min-JAE's stats. And we're going to be using his per 90 stats and comparing it to Eric Dyer's per 90 stats from the Premier League. But when it comes to aerial win percentage, Eric Dyer is actually, higher there, which is kind of interesting. So again, is maybe Min-JAE, actually an aerially dominant, sort of player? I'd like to think that he is, just by, how he looks, physically, and, some of the, highlight reels and whatnot that I've seen of him. He has, looked like a very dominant center back in the air, but I could be wrong. And, people feel free to correct me in the comments interceptions, at least when you're combining some of his Turkish league, kind of, stats, some of his conference league stats, his interceptions went down at least a little bit, but, it's still not better than Eric Dyer's. And I found that a bit interesting because I feel like Eric Dyer probably could actually anticipate maybe the game a bit more. I wish he doesn't need to make as many tackles. He doesn't need to be, sending people to the floor like Christian Romero does. But I'd love to see him, kind of anticipate, maybe a pass a bit more, get a few more, kind of moments where, he kind of gets the team going on a counterattack because he kind of just, read the game really well. And I feel like maybe something Eric Dyer could improve on. And I think you could argue someone like Kim Min-Jae is, that's his kind of one of his characteristics or one of the things that he excels at. Percentage of dribblers tackled, he's better in the one-on-one situations than Eric Dyer is, but he actually isn't dribbled past, or he's dribbled past more times than Eric Dyer, which perhaps Eric Dyer is, kind of, defended by the back three, whereas Kim Min-Jae is, I think, more often in a back four. So he's going to be not nearly as protected. I feel like he's probably better in the one-on-one situations than Eric Dyer is, if you ask me. Pressures, he's has to be a bit more aggressive than Dyer, but he's not too much more aggressive. Blocks, he has at least close to one more, and then tackles and interceptions, about two more at least tackles and interceptions per 90. So defensively, I could make the argument Kim Min-Jae is definitely better than Eric Dyer, but in possession, it's hard to say. I think Eric Dyer isn't really a bad player in possession, and does offer a lot. He can play a pretty, incisive pass. I wish he was a bit more urgent, when playing some of these passes. I feel like he dwells on the ball, a lot, and then will play a nice pass. He does give it away, in certain situations in really bad ways. But I think we established that Kim Min-Jae is probably a better defender, but is he really, better in possession? I'm not too sure on that one. So, when you look at the stats, it just, clearly shows that when it comes to a lot of different metrics that, Eric Dyer probably is better than Kim Min-Jae, in possession. But I'd be curious to know whether, Spurs fans and, maybe other fans or, just people who are really knowledgeable about Kim Min-Jae, whether they'd like to tell me if he is actually better than Eric Dyer in possession. Because when I, kind of just take the FB ref stats here, it doesn't really offer too much justice, to Kim Min-Jae. But I'd be curious to know if people actually feel like the stats aren't really telling the truth here, whether he isn't actually as good, or if he is actually better than Eric Dyer in possession. Just some kind of quick thoughts, for maybe the Napoli fans here. Can Kim Min-Jae replace Koulibaly? I guess we'll find out. But some things to think about here are he is definitely a very athletic center back, kind of like Koulibaly was when he was over at Napoli. I feel like especially in his early days, if I remember, Koulibaly was sort of relying on his pace, relying on that strength. He was still an excellent center back, don't get me wrong, but nowadays he doesn't need to rely on that, I feel like, nearly as much as he did back in the day. And sort of Kim Min-Jae is similar mold to that, very quick, very, very quick, very strong, and very aggressive. So similar attributes there. Of course, like I said, tall, strong, and powerful. That's exactly what describes Koulibaly. I think that's what describes Kim Min-Jae as well. I mean, he's nicknamed the monster in Korea, if I'm not mistaken. And that just, I think translates very well to what, sort of Koulibaly offered to Napoli. So I think there's kind of a smart, kind of physical kind of, similarity there. So I do like the reason, if that was part of the reason why they kind of identified him, I think that was very clever by Napoli. He seems to read the game well, like we said earlier, with the interception. So he's not just going to be, kind of dwelling and then, just, forced to, slide tackle, forced to go to ground all the time. He is going to try to read the game with interceptions. Despite being a big, strong, and powerful player, he is going to, kind of be a bit more graceful about it, you could say, which I think we're all for. He is aggressive and progressive. And I do mean that it's a bit kind of like Christian Romero, where he'll win the ball, via an interception, and then he'll play a progressive pass, or, he'll take a pass to player and then, play a progressive pass. At least from what I could see, that is something that he likes to do. He doesn't, just, immediately get rid of the ball, which I feel like he looks calm in possession in certain moments, especially after winning a tackle. He looks calm in possession. And then the Serie A, I think, could be good for him. It trains some of the best center backs out there. I'd be curious to see what he could bring, to the Serie A, and whether, he's under the right coaches and under the right tutelage. Maybe he could become an excellent center back over there. But everybody, let me know what you think of the Kim Min-Jae transfer over to Napoli. But that'll be all for now. Let me know in the comments, everybody. Hit that like button on your way out, and I will be seeing you.